In 1992, Professor Francis Fukuyama wrote a book called The End of History and the Last Man, a rather hasty commentary on the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1989 and the supposed ascendancy of liberal democracy, suggesting that ideological history is complete. This triumphalist approach has proven to be both short-lived and short-sighted, because barely 30 years into the 21st century, and there seems to be a palpable sense of a loss of purpose and direction. A casual peek around any corner of the world will tell you, the unintended observer, that something is drastically wrong. That's why I chose to name this video, Is This the End of Human History? The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists has decided to move the hands on the doomsday clock to 2 minutes before midnight. This is the closest it has ever been, because they've identified not one, but 3 imminent existential threats that now stares mankind in the face. Let's take a look, folks. We are confronted by 3 monumental challenges. The first one is the threat of a nuclear holocaust. Number 2, catastrophic climatic changes. Number 3, unprecedented social strife. On nuclear war, like the fawning courtier, Damocles warned Dionysus of Syracuse of the impending perils that threatened his reign as king. The threat of nuclear war hangs over our collective heads. We are one button push away from all-out nuclear war and terminal extinction. Paleontologists refers to it as a stage 6 extinction event or terminal level event, which means we're in exactly the same position the dinosaurs were in 66 million years ago, before the skies fell, shifted the continents with the kinetic energy of hundreds of nuclear missiles exploding simultaneously, kicking up 1 trillion tons of dust into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun's light for months, and causing a nuclear winter. At that point in time, the Earth's temperature would have plummeted so low that even bacteria died. Conservative estimates places the death toll at around 2 billion people. It's time to take notice. The atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 in Japan killed an estimated 450,000 people, precipitating the Cold War and ushering in the most dangerous period in human history, because for the very first time, man has the ability to extinguish all life on Earth several times over, otherwise known in military parlance as overkill. There are 8 sovereign states that possesses nuclear weapons, with the largest arsenals owned by Russia, followed by the United States of America and the People's Republic of China, respectively. According to SIPRI, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, the worldwide total inventory of nuclear weapons as at 2019 stands at 13,865. I think that's worth repeating. 13,865 nuclear weapons are stockpiled on this earth. By most estimates, there have been as many as 55 nuclear accidents since 1945. These are nuclear missiles that were accidentally dropped, damaged, were lost in submarine sinkings, or strangely, some were classified as unaccounted for during the commissioning of nuclear weapons in the 80s. The world has come close to the brink of thermonuclear war on 3 occasions, the most famous being the Cuban Missile Crisis in '62. Another one is the little-known instance of a lowly American lieutenant in Okinawa refusing a direct order to fire a missile at China during the same period. And of course the heroic story of Stanislav Petrov, the Russian lieutenant colonel who became known as the man who single-handedly saved the world from nuclear war, for his role in the 1983 Soviet false alarm incident. The rapid expansion of NATO up to the Russian border by Bill Clinton and George Bush, the abrupt cancellation of the INF Treaty with the Russian Federation, and the placing of American-made intermediate-range nuclear missiles in both Romania and Poland by the Trump administration has potentially reignited another Cold War and put the whole of Europe in a very vulnerable position. It must be noted that Russia experienced 3 invasions by the Europeans. 2 of them used Poland as a gateway. So in that light, Russian sensitivities around missiles so close to their western borders becomes understandable. On catastrophic climate change, applying Everett Rogers' law of diffusion of innovation, we have to accept that we've reached a tipping point in mankind's realistic chances of survivability. More than 1,500 of the world's leading scientists and climatologists from across the globe believe that we are between 2.5 and 10 degrees away from irreversible cataclysmic climate change. The Earth receives 3.85 yotajoules of solar energy per annum. To put this in perspective, that is twice as much energy received in 1 year than all the potential energy derived from all the Earth's non-renewable natural resources like coal, oil, natural gas, and nuclear energy combined. Stripped of its protective ozone layer and now exposed to the magnifying effects of solar radiation, the sun's mean radiation levels increases by an order of magnitude, causing massive temperature fluctuations to the Earth's exposed surface, instantly transforming most places to furnace-hot Sahara-like conditions at noon, with the temperatures rapidly plummeting to below Arctic conditions at night. Surviving becomes a nightmarish struggle because we've ironically created our own version of Dante's Inferno on Earth and made it unsustainable for human existence. Melted polar ice caps will see sea levels rapidly rise to 1,000 feet, flooding all coastal cities around the globe. Superstorms will punish the planet with an unrelenting ferocity lasting for weeks, if not months. Our social-political systems collapses, driven by fear, confusion, and uncertainty. The fabric of our society quickly unravels, and the resulting contagion of anarchy, disorder, and violence because of food and fuel shortages serves to accelerate the chaos, and the resultant global deaths reminiscent of the plagues that litters the pages of bygone mythologies. After months of a tenuous existence and staring our own demise in the face, we become like the earth we've just destroyed, broken and unpredictable, having fatally exhausted its internal machinery and unable to autocorrect its ancient natural balances. Our earth starts its inexorable death throes to finality on unprecedented social strife. At no point in mankind's history has there ever been so many people alive, so many starving, so many deaths from starvation and social ills all at once. The incomprehensible vastness and scale of the socio-economic inequalities across all the areas of human existence today is tangibly unfathomable because of extractive, heterotopian, patrimonial, megalomaniacal, toxic neo-capitalism and its trusty torchbearer, neoliberalism, the most comprehensively institutionalized systemic platform of white supremacy and racism ever conceived. Consider these for a moment. Number one, less than 1% of the people owns and controls more than 87% of the global wealth, resources, and land available. Number two, the United States, the EU, and 22 partner nations are secretly negotiating a global trade deal called TISA, Trade in Services Agreement, that will see them corral more than 2/3 of trade worldwide, ushering in a new world order post the collapse of the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1973. Number three, $17 trillion companies control and own almost $60 trillion in global assets and are run by only 199 directors. Number four, huge multinationals have indentured governments on every continent and bought the people of those countries' future mineral wealth using clever legal instruments called mineral rights. Number five, the combined wealth of the top 100 richest people puts them in a position to purchase several countries if they so wished. Number six, about 170 countries' central banks are owned and controlled by private white capital. Number 7. Every year, 140 billion pounds of waste food is dumped. Number 8. According to UNICEF, 1 billion children live in poverty and 22,000 die every day. When we apply the grisly science of necrometrics over the past 500 years and include all the wars, ethnic cleansing and genocides committed, the following deaths were caused by colonialism, empire wars, the hegemony of white supremacy, and both world wars. Number 1. Roughly 95 million indigenous people were exterminated by white people of European descent across the Americas. An estimated 15 to 20 million African American slaves were murdered during the entirety of the transatlantic slave trade. Number 3. As many as 250 million people, perished from all the wars for economics, the world wars, the seasonal pogroms, predictable mass murders and genocides committed against the populations of the world. The victims were, of course, both brown and white, but mainly brown. Number 4. According to the Watson Institute at Brown University, the United States' ongoing war on terror in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and Pakistan has led to hundreds of thousands of civilian casualties and created more than 1 million refugees. This refugee crisis will take years to resolve, folks. Number 5. An incalculable number of labor hours were stolen from black people through institutionalized slavery, indentured labor, and apartheid systems, as was the case in South Africa. And those practices still continues today, with fictitiously low slave wages, euphemistically known as the minimum wage. Number 6. Brown and black people continue to die at an increasing annual rate because of unsafe and dangerous working conditions, driven as it is by the desperate conditions of extreme poverty. Number 7. 36 million brown and black people die annually of poverty, preventable diseases, lack of access to potable water, and medicines. Number 8. It's been calculated that the US economy loses $300 billion annually to the socio-economic phenomenology known as white privilege, an institutionalized global system of socially constructed patronage of economic and social capital automatically extended to white people by virtue of the European ancestry and their socialization into a racist system of white supremacy. My name is Wade Goodwin, and I'm with the Fair Digest, and this is Wade's World. I'm going to challenge you, stretch you, so that you can open up your mind, present you with other options, theories and viewpoints, different opinions and perspectives, encourage you to think dialectically, upset the way you view the world, and along the way, I hope to help you see the importance of becoming an active citizen, an active social citizen of the world, in fact, and not just a passenger. So together you and I can make a difference. The leading English reformer John Ruskin and social thinker once remarked, better the rudest work that tells a story or records a fact than the richest without meaning. Please press the subscribe and notification buttons and like this video and leave a comment if you wish. Also, please subscribe to our newly launched online content-based actuality magazine, The Fair Digest, for as little as $5 a month. And don't forget to join me next week for Wade's World, where I will be addressing some of the key areas of Afrikaner history and why every South African needs to understand it. Till then, folks, thank you for joining me. And remember, the world is a much better place when you and I are informed. Bye. If you watched the video and you found it gloomy, too dark perhaps, or even dystopian, that is exactly my intention. My intention is to provide you with a snapshot or a condensed version or view of how the world, not how I see it, but how the world really is. Einstein defines insanity as doing the same thing day in and day out and expecting a different result. Folks, this is exactly what is going to happen to us, if not by the end of my generation, then certainly in the next generation, if we don't change our behaviors. Our behaviors change if we change and accept our existing and current realities. This is our reality, and this is the Fair Digest. I'm Wade Goodwin. I'm from Wade's World.